What happens when the only person everyone ignores becomes the only one who understands the millionaire everyone fears? The morning light streamed through the tall glass windows of London's Royal Crest Hotel as whispers spread through the lobby. A tall man in a black designer coat stood at the reception desk, speaking in a language no one could understand. His accent was thick, his tone sharp, his expression unreadable. Staff members exchanged confused glances while the manager, Harold Pierce, forced a smile that hid his growing impatience. The man was Viktor Ivanov, a Russian millionaire rumored to own several global companies. Yet here he was, struggling to explain something simple. Guests began to stare. Someone chuckled. Harold leaned forward and said slowly, as if speaking to a child, "Sir, English, please." Viktor frowned. He gestured to his luggage. His frustration was visible, but his words were lost in translation. The staff whispered that he might be drunk. A couple of guests laughed cruelly. That's when Elena Carter, a maid quietly polishing the marble floor nearby, lifted her head. Her brown eyes flickered with empathy. She listened closely to Victor's tone, his words, the rhythm of his speech. And then softly she said, "He's not angry, he's scared. He's trying to explain that his bag was stolen." The room fell silent. Harold turned sharply toward her. "You speak Russian?" Elena nodded. "Yes, I studied languages before I worked here." The disbelief on everyone's faces was painful. For a moment, nobody knew what to say. She stepped closer and translated calmly for Viktor. His face softened with relief. He looked at her with gratitude that words couldn't express. Harold's fake smile vanished. He didn't like being outshined by a maid, but Viktor extended his hand toward Elena, his eyes warm. His voice soft. "Thank you." The hotel lobby felt different now. People who once laughed now looked ashamed. Yet Harold's jaw tightened. Deep inside, he already began planning how to make Elena regret stealing the spotlight. Don't forget to subscribe for the full story to see how truth rises above prejudice in Chapter 2. The moment Elena's kindness exposes a powerful secret that changes everything. The lobby was still buzzing after Elena Carter had surprised everyone by translating for the Russian guest. Viktor Ivanov now sat calmly in one of the leather chairs, his expensive coat folded neatly beside him, while the staff scrambled to make him comfortable. But behind the polite smiles, tension filled the air like a storm waiting to break. Harold Pierce watched Elena from behind the reception desk, his jaw tight, his pride wounded. He hated that a black maid, had saved the hotel's reputation in front of a millionaire. To him, she belonged in the background, unseen and unheard. Yet now even the guests were whispering her name. Sarah Miles, standing nearby, gave Elena a small smile of admiration, but Elena only nodded politely and returned to her work. She didn't want attention. She only wanted peace. Viktor Ivanov gestured for Elena to approach. The staff froze. Harold stepped forward quickly, pretending authority. "She's busy, sir," he said sharply, but Victor's cold stare silenced him instantly. "I said her," Viktor managed to say in broken English, pointing directly at Elena. She hesitated, then walked over quietly. Viktor handed her a small sealed envelope and spoke in Russian. Elena translated softly, "He says this is for you, a thank you for your help." Harold's eyes widened. "She can't accept that, sir." "It's against policy," he snapped, his voice trembling with control. Viktor looked confused. Elena bowed slightly and said, "Thank you, sir, but I can't." But Viktor interrupted firmly, his tone filled with warmth and command. "You read." She carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a card with Russian writing and a gold crest embossed at the top. As she read, her hands began to tremble. Sarah leaned closer. "What is it?" Elena looked up, her eyes wide. "It's an invitation," she whispered. "To the Moscow Art Gala, he says. He needs a translator for his speech tomorrow." The room went silent. Harold's face turned red with jealousy and disbelief. "You, a maid, representing him?" he scoffed. "Don't make me laugh." Victor's sharp gaze turned to Harold, his tone low but powerful. "She speaks heart, you speak noise." The words hit Harold like a slap. As Viktor stood and exited toward his suite, everyone stared at Elena. Sarah whispered, "You're incredible." But Elena shook her head. "I'm just doing what's right." Deep down, though, she felt something strange, a quiet fear, because Harold's glare as she turned away wasn't just angry, it was dangerous. If you're watching, don't forget to subscribe and follow for Chapter 3, where Victor's true reason for visiting London is revealed, and Elena discovers a secret that could destroy the hotel's image forever. Night fell over the London Grand Hotel, and the once bustling lobby was now quiet, its marble floors gleaming under the dim golden lights. Elena Carter stood alone by the cleaning cart, staring at the sealed envelope Viktor had given her earlier. Inside, along with the invitation to the Moscow Art Gala, there was something else, a folded note written in Russian. Her curiosity burned, but so did her caution. She hesitated before finally unfolding it. Her eyes scanned the page, and as she read, her breath caught. The letter wasn't just an invitation, it was a warning. Viktor had written, "They are watching me. Someone here wants to take what is mine. I trust only you." Her hands shook as she looked around the empty corridor, the shadows suddenly feeling heavier. Upstairs, Viktor Ivanov's sweet lights were still on. Elena decided to check on him, using the excuse of delivering towels. As she approached the door, she heard voices inside. One was Victor's deep accented tone, the other was sharp, cold, and unmistakable. Harold Pierce. She froze behind the door, listening carefully. "Mr. Ivanov," Harold said, his words dripping with false politeness, "we just want to make sure your business in London goes smoothly. We know you have valuable documents. Perhaps we could keep them safe for you." Victor's reply was curt and suspicious. "I keep my own safe." Papers shuffled. Then came Harold's sneering tone. "Don't be foolish. You can't even speak proper English. You need help, people like you." But he stopped mid-sentence as something crashed inside the room. "Get out," Viktor barked, "before I throw you out." The door opened suddenly, and Harold stormed out, brushing past Elena without a glance, muttering under his breath. Elena slipped inside quietly, concern written on her face. Viktor sat on the couch, his cane leaning beside him, anger still flickering in his eyes. "Mr. Ivanov," she said softly, switching to Russian, "I heard him. Are you safe?" Viktor looked up, surprised but grateful. "You hear much, Elena." "Too much maybe, but you honest." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small black folder, handing it to her. "Keep this safe, not trust anyone." She hesitated. "Why me?" He smiled faintly. "Because you see people, not money." The folder was heavy, embossed with a golden seal. She didn't open it, not yet. She tucked it beneath her apron, her heart pounding. But just as she turned to leave, she noticed a red light blinking in the corner, a security camera. She knew instantly that Harold had been watching. Back in his office, Harold smirked at the live feed. "So," he whispered, leaning closer to the screen, "the maid thinks she's part of the game now." That night, as Elena walked home through the quiet London streets, she clutched the folder close to her chest. She didn't know what secrets it held, but she could already feel danger closing in. She didn't know yet that what she carried could ruin reputations, end careers, and change her life forever. Don't miss Chapter 4, where the truth behind Victor's secret is exposed, and the maid everyone ignored becomes the one woman who holds the power to save or destroy them all. Subscribe to stay tuned. The morning light spilled through the tall glass windows of the London Grand Hotel, painting the marble floors gold. But peace didn't last long. By the time Elena Carter arrived for her shift, the air was already thick with whispers. Something had happened. Security guards moved briskly, and Harold Pierce's voice echoed through the lobby like thunder. "Check every floor, that folder must be found." His face was red with anger, his composure gone. Elena froze at the sound of his words. The folder, the one Viktor had given her, the one hidden safely in her small apartment just a few streets away. She felt her pulse quicken, but she forced herself to keep cleaning, pretending not to hear. At the same time, Viktor Ivanov stood silently at the center of the chaos. He looked different, colder, more dangerous. His expensive suit was immaculate, but his eyes were sharp and calculating. When he saw Elena, his expression softened only slightly. "Miss Elena," he said in his heavy accent, "you still have it?" She nodded once subtly. "Good," he replied. "Then today we show truth." His words puzzled her, but before she could ask, Harold appeared, fake smiling through clenched teeth. "Ah, Mr. Ivanov," he said, "we've been worried. Something very important seems to be missing from your suite." Viktor didn't blink. "Nothing missing," he said calmly. "Everything where it should be." Harold's smile faltered. "Then you won't mind if security checks the staff?" His eyes flicked to Elena like a knife. Obi fell silent. Sarah Miles, standing behind the front desk, looked terrified. She wanted to speak but didn't. Everyone knew Harold's temper and his prejudice. He snapped his fingers. "Search her bag," he ordered, pointing at Elena. The guards hesitated, unsure. Victor's face darkened. "You insult her," he said coldly, stepping closer. "You insult me." The billionaire's voice carried across the room, drawing stares from guests and staff alike. Harold scoffed. "Sir, this is procedure. We can't let some maid hide your—" Before he could finish, Viktor lifted his hand sharply. "She is not Maid," he declared. "She is my translator, my business partner, the only person here who treated me with respect." The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed as curious guests began filming. Elena's heart raced. She looked at Viktor, shocked, unsure whether he was serious or simply protecting her. Then Viktor nodded at her gently. "Now," he said, "show them truth." Trembling, Elena stepped forward and opened her small purse. Inside was the black folder. Gasps rippled through the lobby as she handed it to Viktor. He opened it slowly, revealing a stack of official documents, hotel contracts, fraudulent accounts, and forged signatures. "This," Viktor said, his accent thick but his voice clear, "is proof of theft. Harold Pierce has been stealing from your hotel for 5 years." The crowd erupted. Sarah covered her mouth in shock. "He's telling the truth," she whispered. "I've seen the files he hid." His face went pale. "This is ridiculous," he shouted. "She's lying, they're both lying." But before he could escape, 2 men in suits appeared behind him, private investigators Viktor had hired the night before. One of them held up a warrant. "Harold Pierce," he said firmly, "you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud." As officers cuffed him, Harold's eyes darted to Elena. "You," he hissed, "you'll regret this." But she didn't flinch. For the first time, she stood tall, proud, steady, unafraid. The crowd began to murmur again, but this time not with judgment. They whispered with admiration. "That Maid saved the company. She speaks Russian. She's incredible." Sarah rushed over, tears in her eyes. "Elena," she said softly, "you did it." Viktor smiled at her warmly. "No," he said, placing a hand on Elena's shoulder. "She did it, alone." Then he turned to the stunned audience. "You all saw how you looked at her yesterday, like she was nothing. But today she saved your reputation." Silence fell. Even the cameras stopped flashing. For once, no one had anything to say. Later that evening, as the sun dipped over London, Elena walked out of the hotel with her head high. Viktor waited beside a black limousine. "I go back to Moscow tomorrow," he said, "but I will never forget your courage. If you ever need anything, you call me." He handed her a card with his personal number and smiled. "The world will one day see you, Elena, truly see you." She thanked him quietly, her heart full. As the car pulled away, she looked back at the hotel, the place where she was invisible, until she became unforgettable. That night, her story spread across the news, titled "The Maid Who Spoke Truth." In every comment, people wrote one word: respect. Subscribe for more powerful true stories that prove one act of courage can change everything.